Okay? That one that's going straight up and down, that's the posterior interventricular artery. So the one that goes straight up and down, you know that you're on the dorsal or the posterior side of the heart. So there's the dorsal, the posterior side. There's the ventral or the anterior side. Okay? Any questions there? All right. Also, the next thing is, notice here, you see it's sectioned off. So remember how we said you make a fist? There's the round area for the left ventricle. Wrap the hand around it. There's the opening for the right ventricle. So this is just through the ventricular wall, and of course you have the interventricular septum here. So notice how thin the wall is to the right ventricle versus how thick the wall is to the left ventricle. Again, remember the right ventricle is only the pulmonary circuit, so it only has to generate enough blood pressure to go to the two lungs and back to the heart itself. Whereas the left ventricle systemic pump has to be the one to pump blood all the way out to all parts of the body against gravity to the top of your head, fingertips, toes, and back to the heart again. So it has to generate a greater amount of force there. Next thing, what you want to do is orient the heart to where, I always hold it in front of my hand like this, where the apex is pointing down and away from me, and the anterior side is going down. Remember, here's the posterior side. The reason being is because when you open it up, of course you can see the septum first, then you can see here the thick wall here, so this is going to be the left ventricle. Here's the thin wall here, this is going to be the right ventricle. And so the valve that sits on top of the right ventricle is what? The tricuspid valve, that's right. So here's the papillary muscles, here's the chordae tendineae, here's part of that tricuspid valve, and so the chamber that's above the tricuspid valve is going to be what?
The right atrium.
The right atrium, exactly. So if I take a wood probe here and I run it up through there, going in, or out I should say, at a 12 o'clock position, that's going to be your superior vena cava. So like on the exam, we'll have the wood probe sitting like this. We ask you, is it going to be oxygen rich or oxygen poor blood in this vessel? Or what's the name of this vessel? So you open it up and you see, where is it coming into the heart? You'll notice it's coming into that right atrium. Or I can take this out, go across here. In the sheet, it's going to be more like a 8 or 9 o'clock position. That's going to be your inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava is draining the blood from the inferior aspect. So remember, the heart doesn't sit like this in the sheet. It sits like this. So it kind of comes out a little bit more of an angle, whereas in you and I, it would be straight up and down in a 6 o'clock position because the heart's sitting inside of us like that. If you open it up and you leave that wood probe in there, see if I can actually get this where you guys can see it. You see where the metal probe's going into the wall of the right atrium there? It's kind of hard probably from where you're at, but there's a little hole. It doesn't go through. It goes into the muscle. So it's squeezing down inside there. That's going to be your coronary sinus. Because remember, the coronary sinus doesn't go through the heart muscle wall. It comes from the heart muscle. So it's just below the inferior vena cava down inside that right atrium. So the blood comes down from the right atrium down through your tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Now it's going to go up and out. And remember how we said where your index finger is? Back here. So here's the anterior aspect. As you can see it coming down at the angle there. And notice this big vessel coming out there. We'll kind of cut it open for you guys. That's going to run out what we call the pulmonary trunk. Okay? And if you open it up, as we've dissected here, you can see the flaps here to your pulmonary semilunar valve, or pulmonary semilunar cusp there. This one is just still attached as we look across like that. So let's get it out of the way. So see how the blood would come past, and as it tries to come back, it would get caught. So that's part of your pulmonary semilunar cusp there going out through the pulmonary artery. Blood leaves the pulmonary artery, goes to the lungs, drops off the CO2, bits of O2, comes back to the what? Heart. What chamber of the heart?
The left
Left atrium,
atrium.
good. So the left atrium, remember, is going to be sitting on top of the left ventricle. So here you've got the papillary muscles again in the left ventricle. Here's the chordae tendineae. Here's your mitral or bicuspid valve. So we'll put it up into that left atrium. See if I can find that opening here. Remember, they're going to be really thin walls, so they tend to collapse. There it is. See where it's coming out right there? Real thin wall right there. Going into that left atrium. So that's going to be one of your pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins, O2 rich or O2 poor? O2 rich. Even though it's a vein, remember it's rich because the pulmonaries are going to be backwards with that. Blood, of course, is going to come down through that bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. Now it's going to go up and out. And just above the interventricular septum here, there's one of the aortic semilunar cusps. So the blood will flow past like this. When it tries to come back, it's going to get caught slamming shut there. Therefore, keep the blood going out through the aorta. Okay. So that's the basic blood flow through the sheath heart. Don't worry about identifying right and left coronary arteries. Don't worry about identifying like the brachiocephalic, those coming off the aortic arch. You can see those on the heart model themselves. Okay. Any questions there?